The SNP are completely destroying Glasgow with their net zero agenda. Vulnerable Scottish children have been abandoned by Humza Yousaf and Nicola Sturgeon, and the Scottish Green Minister was driven 350 miles on taxpayer to have a look at some trees. Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the channel that challenges the mainstream media and the political establishment, from the left-wing nutters to the globalist elites. And welcome to the first news show of the day. We're also going to come to you guys at 6 p.m. and 8 p.m, both UK times, with other news shows that we have. And if anything happens in between, breaking news or some wokey nonsense, we'll come to you guys as well, report that as usual. So this video is going to be mostly about Scottish politics and all the chaotic socialist nonsensical measures that are being spread around the nation. So first things first, we're going to talk about Glasgow and the net zero measures in the name of tackling air pollution, but we found some problems with that, which we're going to give you some surprising news about Glasgow, as well as, of course, what's going on with the legacy of Nicola Sturgeon. And now we have Humza Yousaf continuing the same legacy, completely abandoning vulnerable children in Scotland. Their lives are at risk. That's also absolutely disgusting. And a Scottish Green Minister. So first, let's talk about what is going on in Glasgow. Glasgow seems to be pretty clean. Air is already clean, and it has nothing to do with net zero measures. In fact, some of the new ULEZ types policies have not actually been implemented yet. The council, Glasgow Council, controlled by socialists, are going to be doing it. But air pollution in Glasgow has been low almost every day in 2023, although only 2 days recording a moderate score. Moderate. Not even anything dangerous. Prompting critics to ask why the ban on older cars and vans are necessary. Obviously, they're banning cars. They're also putting a fine on top of that if those who are disobeying the system and the authority of the SNP establishment. And they are going to be adding more tax and more cameras to make sure everybody's following the rules. Makes you think, is this actually about air pollution? Is this actually about clean energy? I don't think so anymore, because they're not looking at the facts. The people who claim to be on the side of science are ignoring the science. Okay. Thomas Ingram posted this saying, some people might find this interesting. Here is the current air quality in Glasgow, which hasn't changed all week. These measured levels are prior to any LES being implemented, LES being the low emission zones. So the question must be why a LES is necessary. Anyone? And you can see in the image that is posted. You can see an excellent. There's obviously one of them says fair, ground levels as a zero zone. But overall, particulate matter, everything else in terms of the ND, these measures are completely unnecessary. In fact, we could dig deeper. Let's dig deeper and look at some dates. When you look at the beginning of the year, this is the Glasgow pollution levels. From the 1st of January, it's been green. So low 1, low 2. There's a Glasgow urban area near busy roads, and on the right hand side is a Glasgow urban areas elsewhere. So not really in the center, where it's like near busy areas, maybe like side roads. So when you scroll down, it's the same thing over and over again. January, again, the whole thing is green, either bright green or darker green. It's basically safe, and you can go back down. February. Same thing, low 1, low 2, low 3, definitely not red. You can only just about find 2 dates, which was last month, 21st of April and 22nd of April. 2 days and 2 areas, it was number 4, moderate. So no red zone, only yellow, the rest green. So when you dig deeper, I think doing basic research really helps. You can see the facts. You can see that this has nothing to do with clean air. This is, or clean environment in general. They are doing these things because it's a cash cow scheme and it's easier to control the public. If they're following the rules, you can add more taxation and more surveillance. And no one's speaking out against it. These stats are easy to find. But I wonder if the BBC journalists who claim to be very, very investigative and actually they can really care about holding the power to account, why are they not talking about any of this? I'm not really sure. Now, there are also other problems in Scotland when it comes to the legacy of Nicola Sturgeon and now Humza Yousaf carrying on with the same disgusting policy program. We know that the drug addiction is escalating. We've got the crime going up. Everything is basically completely getting destroyed. Education system, the healthcare system, we already know all this. But this is about vulnerable children in Scotland who've been completely abandoned. Nicola Sturgeon and her party at the time were going around doing the PR publicity stunts all the time with children and going to schools saying, hey, we're on the side of the vulnerable people. We will protect you. In fact, we will be the parent you never had because the state could be your parent. The nanny state is here. But Nicola Sturgeon absolutely failed young people, according to the Children's Commissioner. And we got the data to back it up. They've already published the report. You can actually just Google it and find out the report from the Children's Commissioner in Scotland. It's absolutely disgusting what's going on when it comes to the welfare of children. This is Bruce Adamson, the Commissioner, saying, children are worse off. There are real questions to be asked and answered by the Scottish Government in particular, but also local authorities and others about why we haven't delivered on all these promises to children and young people. So this is about everything from the standard of education in Scotland to child and food poverty when it comes to these vulnerable little kids. And of course, access to public services. Everything is down in Scotland thanks to the SNP. Now, asked by some sort of show, and if Nicola Sturgeon had failed to improve the lives of children, Adamson said, absolutely. I think all of us need to look at what we can do better. We have to acknowledge that the pandemic had a huge impact on children's rights. I think we should call it lockdown rather than the pandemic. It was the lockdown that did it. And they said, and it had a disproportionate impact on those whose rights were already most at risk. And I think that's the really concerning thing. We really need a step change in the way that we address those concerns by putting funding into those support services that families need in order to get that early and effective support. Because otherwise, we end up in a crisis situation which costs a lot more. Now, we already know all this. It's not really a big surprise. But what matters is what's going to happen now. Because the Commissioner was also asked about Humza Yousaf. He's now the new leader and the new First Minister. Nicola Sturgeon's gone. Is he doing anything different? Is he going to be putting more money and support when it comes to vulnerable children? Well, according to this guy, he said, I'm really disappointed that Humza Yousaf didn't mention children's rights in his Big Vision for Scotland statement to Parliament. It's only mentioned very briefly in the written document. We've got no commitment to actually bringing the laws forward that will deliver change. And then some of these questions around their commitment to universal support, like school meals, and obviously raises big questions. Isn't it funny? That obviously dark funny. It's not really like a ha-ha funny, but it's absolutely hilarious how the SNP politicians have been going out there blaming everything on the English. Everything's the English fault. And they say that we shouldn't deal with English, we should, even though they go to Manchester to find accountants. And there are other stories as well, where they always deal with the businesses and people in England at the same time saying, we hate English. Pick a side, guys, pick a side. But they're completely shameless when it comes to their own track record. It's the same thing in Wales with the Welsh Labour government and Mark Drakeford. We already know that the UK establishment in Westminster have failed as well. We already know that the Tories are all over the place. But in those places that have devolved powers, whether it's Sadiq Khan in London or Humza Yousaf in Scotland or the other one or this one everywhere, you have to create accountability as a system. We don't really have that anymore because even the mainstream media, they only attack these party leaders or these first ministers or mayors based on gossip politics. And it's very, very sad. Now, speaking of accountability, let's talk about the Scottish Green Minister. You know, Lorna? Yeah, Lorna Slater. She's back in the news. She's back on the channel. A few days ago, we talked about Lorna. Look at that face. She was the one Scottish Green Minister, who decided to say no to a Scottish state-owned public ferry to go to the Isle of Rum for a visit, governmental visit. She decided to get her team and herself a private boat and use taxpayers' money to pay that, hundreds of pounds for like a short visit, short trip, instead of using a £12.50 or whatever the price was for the actual public boat. But she's now taken it to a whole new level. This is absolutely fascinating. 350-mile chauffeur-driven journey to have a look at some trees, because she likes trees. And the Green Party loved their photo op with trees. Hug a tree, guys, hug a tree. And this is absolutely, I mean, at this point, there has to be some questions. Someone in some sort of parliamentary committee needs to bring her in and ask her about her accountability when it comes to public money, public finances. But the situation is that Lorna Slater used a chauffeur-driven ministerial car for no fewer than 50 journeys in the past year, despite urging Scottish people to use public transport and cut their use of private vehicle. So that's the fundamental issue of the story. It's not just this one trip that I'm going to talk about in a second, because Lorna, overall, she's using an anti-net zero car, basically, a non-environmental regulated car, ministerial car, to go around all the time on taxpayers' money. But she's telling the rest of the public, stop using your car and start using the terribly supported and funded public transport. Now, that's one. But one trip caught my eye, and I thought I would give you guys the report on this channel. 350-mile trip for a tree planting project and session near Loch Ness. Why? Why are we paying these people more money every year? Not just in terms of salaries, but expenses and the freebies, the gravy train. 350 miles just to be driven to go and look at some people planting trees and take some pictures. Is that some sort of ministerial role? Is it some sort of important meeting to actually have about Scotland, about issues that's affecting Scottish people? As we said on this channel earlier on in the same video, there are vulnerable Scottish children who've been abandoned by your government. At the same time, you guys are going out there, look at trees. Is this really worth your time and taxpayers' money? It's disgusting. This is also Lorna. A few days ago, when we reported on this channel that she was very happy with her team, smiling on a private boat just to go to the Isle of Rum. Just why? Why are we doing this? Again, the main question is, where are the mainstream media? Makes you think, makes you wonder. Am I on my own here? Am I just being crazy? Am I just talking to myself? Is anybody listening to this in the establishment? Although I am proud of our track record on this channel. We have actually, I think we did a video about a year ago where we listed, I think 2 or 3 times we unintentionally affected government policy on this channel by putting so much pressure on the governments and administrations to make sure that they are doing the right thing. So I think we're going to continue our job. With your support, we'll continue to hold the power to account. And don't forget, we have 2 other news shows tonight for you guys, 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. UK time. Oh, God, next one, 6 p.m. Do you know what we're talking about? We're going to talk about the Welsh Government, Mark Drakeford and his gravy train, because that one is going to make you a little bit frustrated, but don't worry, I'm going to bring some humor and entertainment into it to make it seem slightly more relaxed. And then we're going to have more updates later on at 8 p.m. about the Tory party. The Tory family are fully divided. They are falling apart because some of their senior members attended the National Conservatism Conference, which is not a Tory conference, it's National Conservatism. They are attacking Suella Braverman and Jacob Rees-Mogg, saying this is basically like National Socialism. It's literally called National Conservatism, but okay, fair enough. They are scared of the word national. Let me know what you think and give me your feedback in the comment section. I'm Mahyar Tousi, and we are the media.